Alright, we got another video. Let me turn this down. We got sunlight coming through, but I got another video. It's called "He Shot Up a Condo and Had All Charges Dropped." It's been a minute since I reacted to this man's video. I reacted to it like last year sometime, but I forgot. I wanted to react to more of his videos though.
When a man in Las Vegas attempted to open fire in the lobby of a condominium, it wasn't long before the strange case, seemingly straight out of a movie, began to make international news. It's the lack of news surrounding the trial, though, that makes this case truly mysterious. It isn't too often that we have a mass shooting hit the news that gets more or less completely forgotten. It's even less often that we have an outcome like the one in this story where we're left with so many questions. The Turnberry Towers are two large residential buildings in Las Vegas on the 300 block of Caron Avenue near Paradise Road to be specific. It's a condominium which, according to residents of Las Vegas Online, is somewhat pricey, about the price of an average house in the area. It was at this building where one man, Andrew Warrender, a 32-year-old, was staying with his uncle. To be more specific, he had been staying with him on and off for about a year and a half, but it was enough for the front desk staff and the valets to know him. He was described by the staff at the condo as being socially awkward, but at the same time completely harmless to anyone you may ask. For this whole year and a half, Andrew would simply be a weird, quiet guy who would hop up on the elevator, go up to his uncle's room, and come out every now and then. Everything plummeted downhill very quickly on the afternoon of June 23rd in 2023. At a little after 2 p.m., Andrew arrived to the Turnberry Towers in a black Dodge Charger. He stopped at the front of the building, hopped out, and briefly spoke to one of the valets before entering. This was nothing out of the ordinary in and of itself. It was what would happen after that would make this day in particular stand out. Andrew took the elevator up to his uncle's room on one of the higher floors as usual. He entered into a room of his uncle's condo that contained a safe. Inside this safe was his gun, a weapon that has only been described by the media as an
AR-15?
AR-15-like rifle. Interestingly, he also grabbed a motorcycle helmet and put that on as well. With this equipment, he left his uncle's apartment and proceeded towards the stairs. The first surveillance footage that would capture Andrew in this get-up would take place on the staircase coming down from the 36th floor just before 3 p.m. It was here that Andrew began to make his way down the entire staircase of the building, seemingly avoiding the elevator while carrying his uncle's rifle and his phone, apparently acting pretty nonchalant. He gradually made his way down to the 31st floor. He was soon spotted on the staircase of the 26th floor. By the time he made it to the 16th floor, he was mainly looking at his phone while walking. He continued to stare at his phone as he made his way down to the 10th floor, then the 5th, and then finally the ground floor. Once Andrew made his way down to the bottom floor, he exited through the doorway leading out of the building. Then he walked around to the main entrance once again, still carrying the rifle. He entered into the lobby and proceeded over to the elevators, strangely enough, still looking at his phone while...
The hell is that helmet gonna do? That's like a biker, what it is, that's a lot like what them people ride, put them helmets on when they ride bicycles. What the hell is that helmet gonna do for him? If someone was to shoot at him, what would that helmet do for him?
Walking. Shortly after 3 p.m., a valet informed the front desk security of the building that Andrew had just walked through, wearing a helmet and carrying a rifle, acting as if nothing was even strange about the whole thing. The security guard told the employee that, for the time being, there wasn't really much they could do, as open carrying a rifle in and of itself wasn't illegal in Nevada. The security guard said that there very likely wasn't anything to worry about. After all, he said that he had been seeing Andrew on the property on an almost daily basis for over a year by that point, and he had never had a single issue with him. With that, the valet seemed to relax just a little bit. Another witness in the lobby, though, wasn't so convinced. This person said that Andrew would often joke around, but this time he was completely silent. They said that he seemed very abnormal this time around, almost as if he had something on his mind that was taking all of his attention. The previously mentioned valet made his way over to Andrew, feeling something was off, and asked if he was okay. It was here that Andrew finally responded, saying clearly, "I am not okay." The driver then asked Andrew why he had a rifle with him. Andrew then turned towards the employee, lifting his rifle up as if he was going to shoot him. The valet driver took off and made his way back to the front desk, telling the security guards that it was time to call the police. Shortly after, Andrew came trailing behind him back into the lobby. An HOA member was notified by one of the security guards, likely while the other called the police, that Andrew was walking around the lobby with a rifle and that he, in their words, may start shooting people. The property manager and her assistant were beginning to leave their office when they saw Andrew there. He lifted his gun up towards them and began to aim it at them. Fearing for their lives, they dipped back inside. They then placed a desk and other office furniture against the door and hid, waiting for the police to arrive. One security guard, still on the phone with the police, was able to clearly tell them what Andrew was doing, saying, "Andrew is walking around with an AR-15 in his right hand and a helmet on." There, Andrew opened fire. He fired one shot at the employees that were hiding behind the desk. Right before he shot, the security guard he was aiming towards was quick enough to duck behind the desk. Luckily, this single shot missed, and right after, his gun jammed. Andrew began to attempt to fix his rifle. Believing that he took care of the jam, he held the gun up once again and aimed it towards the security guards behind the desk. However, the gun still wouldn't fire. He decided to flee the building through the main entrance, exiting through the revolving door. One of the security guards, fearing that Andrew would repair the gun jam while outside, exited the valet entrance and into the office, pulling out his own gun and firing back. He fired from 12 to 13 shots, some of them hitting Andrew in the legs and abdomen. Andrew screamed before falling to the ground and slamming onto the concrete. This security guard's name was Humberto Garcia. He then held Andrew at gunpoint until the police arrived. Once they did, he unloaded his gun and placed it onto the ground next to him. When the police spoke to him, he told them that he felt everyone else in the area was in danger. He said that he used deadly force to protect the employees and anyone else who might happen to be nearby.
That man decided to play hero that day, didn't he? That man came out firing.
He added that he felt that Andrew was there to kill indiscriminately, not seeming to have any particular grievance with anyone in particular or any specific target in general. When the police asked Humberto if he always carried a gun as part of his job, he told them that he was actually specifically asked not to. He said, though, that he had his own free will and chose to carry one regardless.
So that's not even the gun that the company gave him. So he just carrying around his personal gun?
Feeling that something like this might happen one day. The police evaluated Andrew, seeing that he had been shot several times in the leg and lower abdomen but was still very much alive and even conscious. They called an ambulance to take him out to a local hospital. While that was going on, a few more officers went up to Andrew's uncle's condo to perform a welfare check. They were relieved to see that he wasn't in the home at all. There, though, they did find an open black case, one that likely had held the rifle. Andrew was carted off to a local hospital. There he was found to obviously have very extensive injuries that were going to take a while to recover from. Even though he was still very much out of commission, the police decided that there was more than enough evidence to charge him. He was booked in absentia for a number of charges, those being 2 counts of assault with a deadly weapon for each time he tried to fire, discharging a firearm in an occupied structure, and...
Damn, you get charged every time you use the weapon? Golly, I did not know that.
attempted murder. For a while, the police simply had to wait for his condition to improve before they could nab him. After a few weeks, he was finally released from the hospital. This is where a grand jury finally indicted him and he was all set to be arrested. This is where things went from a very simple, straightforward case of a failed mass shooting to something a lot more complex and kind of strange. While Andrew was originally held at the Clark County Detention Center without bail, it wasn't going to be this way for too long. While it was initially reported that he had missed 2 of his court dates, this was because he wasn't medically fit to leave the hospital. Because of that, his trial was set for July. Humberto Garcia, the security guard that shot Andrew, was originally looked at skeptically by the police. However, this never got past the questioning stage. They believed that he was acting in self-defense, as well as the defense of others, and he was never charged with a crime. He was let go entirely once they chose not to charge him with anything. In July, Andrew first appeared in court one Tuesday morning. The police escorted Andrew into the courtroom in a wheelchair, his legs still covered in bandages as he was unable to walk.
Alright.
Oddly enough, though, Andrew seemed to be in good spirits, laughing and smiling towards different people watching in the
Let me guess, he's gonna plead insanity?
gallery. However, things were looking grim for him as severe as his charges were. But it was during this hearing that the first surprising twist would come to take place. Despite all of the evidence against him, Andrew's attorney simply requested that, since they didn't have much time to prepare, that the actual hearing could take place later. The judge agreed without much argument, sending everyone home and rescheduling the whole thing for August 7th. Meanwhile, on the 4th of July, a group called the USA Inquiry Lawyers held a special barbecue in honor of the security guard who shot Andrew, Humberto Garcia. Not only did he get to enjoy the event, he was also given an award as part of a ceremony that honored local police and military veterans. However, while it all seemed like an open and shut case and that Andrew Warrender would simply rot away in jail, the whole part about having no bail was overturned very suddenly. His bail was set at $25,000, which he was very soon able to pay. He was released from jail, but he was put on a few different restrictions.
Where did he get the money to pay the bail? Where did he get the money to pay the bail from? I know his uncle didn't pay it.
He would be subject to electronic monitoring, he would no longer be allowed anywhere near Turnberry Towers, and he would no longer be allowed to possess a weapon. While the public was definitely unhappy about a barely failed mass shooter being released back onto the streets, there wasn't much they could do. They weren't really satisfied with the rule that he could no longer own a gun, as the one he used in the attack wasn't even his own in the first place. He had simply just swiped it from a family member. Not to mention, even if he wasn't allowed back at Turnberry, that didn't mean he couldn't just commit the same sort of attack somewhere else. This move was heavily criticized, leading to the media only reporting the details of his release on a few select occasions. From here on out, the public began to feel that the case was being suppressed for one reason or another. While the case had originally been all over the news, especially leading up to his hearing, the whole thing was dropped very abruptly after he was released on bail, and actually never spoken of again. There were many people who wondered if it was because this was an actual case of an armed employee who wasn't a cop using his personal gun to take down a criminal. Many felt that this wasn't something that either the media or the police wanted to glorify. It all started when the police refused to even mention that an employee had been the one to take Andrew down for several days. It took the information leaking to the news media for the police to finally admit that yes, that is what happened. Things got even worse when the final outcome of this case was decided, with zero media reporting on the issue. On September 18th, with the general public being completely on the wiser, all of the 4 charges against Andrew Warrender were completely dropped. There were actually no articles or news pieces published that relayed this info. In fact, it's only even known that this happened because people following the case were able to look up the case number on the Las Vegas court website. For a while, they showed that all of the charges were dropped before the entire case number disappeared from search results entirely. With this new revelation, the number of theories surrounding this case only continued to grow, and as there was no actual reporting done on the outcome of this case, we are still left completely in the dark as to what actually went down during his trial. One of the main theories is that there wasn't much evidence against Andrew. While this may sound crazy at first, the public wasn't presented with the footage that showed Andrew taking his only shot. It showed him walking in and out of the lobby, but missed that crucial point. It's very possible that his lawyer was able to argue that he was simply a man carrying a gun, that a security guard decided to play hero, and overreacted. Not only that, but it appeared that Humberto initially lied to the police about how many shots he had fired. He told them that he had fired from 5 to 6 shots, but the crime scene investigators were able to determine that it was more than 10, at least 12. This very well could have put a dent in his credibility surrounding the incident, giving Andrew's lawyers a little more to work with. Given the area that Andrew's uncle lived in, a lot of people speculated that his family had simply used their presumably high amount of wealth to simply hire the best lawyers and argue for some sort of rehabilitation on the condition that the charges were dropped. Some of them even believed that they might have simply paid someone off to make the whole thing go away. A good number of people continued to believe that, given the Good Samaritan with a gun element of the story, someone out there didn't want the news about the crime to continue to circulate. On a similar note, whoever decided to sweep the charges under the rug may have decided that it wouldn't be in their best interest to have that news very well known. In the end, it is very suspicious that a failed mass shooting that made front-page news across the United States and even international news on some level was completely forgotten about so quickly before a resolution was even reached. Maybe the answer is a lot more simple than we think. Given that most of the news reporting on this case was local, it's very possible that they were simply just distracted by the new, fresh, numerous more crime cases taking place in Las Vegas on any given day. In the end, though, Andrew Warrender was released with no punishment. Well, no punishment aside from his lower body being turned into a block of Swiss cheese, that is. Once again, thank you for watching.
That don't make no sense. He raised his weapon to not only the guards, but also the property managers that was on the scene at that time. He raised his gun 2 times to 2 people. I mean, well, a few people. Why did they throw that out? And plus, he shot at a security guard. Let me see, because I ain't gonna lie, it sounds like a conspiracy theory. I'm not gonna lie. This is a prime example of classic judicial system. Rich people get away with more stuff than poor people. This has always been true in this country. Charges dropped and docket disappeared. Something doesn't sound right. Yeah, exactly. How does the case just disappear from public records? How does the case just disappear? That's some serious pull. I ain't gonna lie. To make a public document just disappear like that. Excuse me. And to have the news media suppress it and not talk about it after he got all the charges dropped. Because it sounded suspicious when he got money for bail. Who gave him money for bail? That was the first red flag. Who was the person who gave him money to get bail? That was the first red flag right there. I'm surprised. How did he get money to get out on bail? Did they say how much his bail was? How much was his bail? I forgot how much his bail was. The security guard was initially looked at with suspicion. The security guard did nothing wrong. He was trying to protect people. If he hadn't been there, there would have been fatalities. It's very strange that the charges were dropped. I can't see any logical reason why. The charges were dropped. That just doesn't make sense, because you have security service cameras, surveillance cameras. You have evidence right there. It don't make no sense.
She said that I'm tripping, I be in my head a lot. Ain't explaining cause girl I done said a lot. You won't say how you feel, girl, just let it out. That's your man, but you still trying to sell a mine. And I made it this far, I can't go back. And I left too hard, that's why I get attached. But I'm done and I'm over that. It was one-sided, I'm not holding back. Cause you know that I care for you, was the only one there for you. I lose interest when I'm trying harder than you. I was all about you, but never mind. And I gave you my all, I wasted time that I cannot get back. Now I'm thinking I gotta sit back. Pay attention how I'm finna act. Cause you gave up on me and I needed that. You don't care if I'm